Welcome, scribes of the extraordinary. Today we are going beyond entertainment and diving deeper into the craft of storytelling by talking about the five-man band. So, first, I'm going to discuss the roles in the five-man band, and then we're going to talk about how you can utilize it in your stories and also how to subvert the tropes associated with this archetype, as well as show you some examples of how it has worked well in different pieces of media. So, first, what is a five-man band? A five-man band tends to be a five-person group consistent of the leader, the lancer, the big guy, the smart guy, and the heart. So, first, we're going to talk about the leader. The leader is well, leader of the team. They tend to be the one with the most experience, or they are the hero of the story, and that's what slots them into the leadership role. The key thing about the leader is that they are someone who steps up and chooses to lead the team. They are not bosses. They are not someone who is given control over a group of people and expects them to follow orders. A leader is someone who works alongside the team, who tends to be the one on the front line, the one in the action first, and who also understands the strengths and weaknesses of the rest of the team dynamic. Next, we have the Lancer. Now, the Lancer is the second in command, and traditionally, the Lancer role used to be called the foil. Now, foils are character relationships that are contrary and complementative of one another. So, for example, if your leader is a very strong stoic type, your Lancer could be on the goofier side, or the Lancer could be more of like a Spitfire hothead. So, you tend to have a Lancer with physical characteristics, emotional characteristics, fighting styles, visual cues that are going to be opposite of your leader. They are they tend to be the leader's best friend. Sometimes they are a rival to the leader in that they're going after this same goal, but the leader is the one who is in charge and calls the final shots. However, if something ever happens to the leader, it is the Lancer that steps up into that leadership position. The Lancer is the trusty number two. They're second in command. They tend to also balance the leader. So, whatever strengths or weaknesses your leader has, your Lancer tends to be the opposite. Next, we have the big guy. The big guy tends to be the really large, tall muscle of the group. The role of the big guy is the one who gets the job done. Whether you're in a fight, a negotiation, whatever, it's the big guy who actually has all the skills necessary to finish the task. They tend to be the muscle of the group. If your group is a fighting warrior dynamic, which most five-man bands tend to be. Usually they are a tank of some sort. They're the ones that can take all the big hits and dish them out even harder. Next role we have is the smart guy. Now, the smart guy tends to be the most intelligent one of the group. If there's a problem, they're the ones that can solve it. In the five-man band dynamic, they tend to be the wizard or magic user. They tend to be the tech whiz. They tend to be the strategist. So the person that you would most rely on to figure out a more technical problem, this is going to be your smart guy. And finally, we have the heart. Now, the heart has sprung out of a different title for this role in the five-man band, which used to be called the chick. Now, the chick was the required girl in the group. They are the one, it's like, okay, you have all your guys being heroes. It's awesome. Oh, we need to throw a girl in there just because we have to. So this role began as if there's someone who's been kidnapped, it's probably going to be the chick. If there's someone who's more motherly, that kind of thing. This role, thankfully, has since evolved into the role of the heart. Now, the heart still tends to be a woman. And that's because the heart, just like our heart, is the life source of the team. Your heart is what gives life and unifies your whole body. It's what allows your body to have the blood that it needs in order to function. The heart of the team does the exact same. They're the ones who tend to be more empathetic, who tend to really pay attention to their team members. They're the ones that they see the flaws in their team members and they encourage their strengths. They tend to be the one that can foresee conflict coming before it pops up, or if there is some kind of issue that the team will have to address, possibly a morally gray area, they tend to be the one that speaks on the opposite side, like, hey, what about their perspective of what we are going to do? So, those are the 5 core roles of the five-man band. However, with this specific archetype, there are a couple roles that tend to show up alongside the five-man band roles. One of those is the mentor. Now, the mentor is a figure who guides the team. Sometimes they're the ones that initially bring the team together. Sometimes they do show up throughout the story just to guide the team through different things. Maybe they're there the whole time, maybe they're there part of the time, but they are the ones with a lot more experience, tend to come with a lot more age as well. Another role is called the Sixth Ranger. Now, the Sixth Ranger is a character who shows up late to the party. You have your pre-established five-man band, and then the Sixth Ranger shows up and joins the team, adding a little bit of conflict to this new dynamic. They're the ones that tend to have their own story. They could very easily be lone wolves. Maybe they just show up occasionally to help the team because their goals align, and then they go back off to their own corner of the world to solve problems their own way. Another role is the team pet. This is some kind of animal or a little robot. This is just some kind of cute creature that the characters love, that we love, and they add a little bit of fun and whimsy to the story. They kind of play as the team's mascot. And typically the team pets, they're just kind of there doing their own thing. Sometimes they can cause conflict and progress the plot in their own way. But typically they're just there. They're the team pet. We love them. Another role for the five-man band is the tag-along kid. Now, the tag-along kid tends to be the younger sibling of somebody in that they literally tag along. If you have your five-man band tends to be a group of warriors, of fighters in some capacity. If this isn't a younger sibling of somebody, this is going to be somebody who is outside of the realm that your team operates. So you could have a tag-along kid be someone with 0 combat experience that gets roped into the adventure and the five-man band's just stuck with them. Whether it's they are protecting them because the tag-along kid has some special ability, or it's, well, this person's stuck with us now, or it's a younger sibling that gets dropped off after school one day, or whatever. They tend to be someone who tends to cause more problems than they actually solve, but they can be instrumental to your plot depending on how you use them. So, what are some takeaways for the 5-man band? The 5-man band is a solid team dynamic. All 5 of these roles work together in harmony to make a very strong team. There's a reason why each of these roles exist and why there's so many varieties of 5-man band, but all 5 of these roles exist in the team dynamics that work. They all complement each other. They cover each other's flaws and weaknesses with their own strengths. And that's what makes this trope specifically really powerful, is that you can have all of these different characters who are very different. They come together, they mesh well, and they just click. So the 5-man band is a great framework to start with if you are having some sort of a team dynamic in your story. Another reason why 5-man band is a great tool is, well, what happens when you pull one of those roles out? Your well balanced, well oiled machine is missing a critical piece and then breaks. With the Sixth Ranger, what happens when you add another component to it? Well, then you have to rearrange the gears in order to make this machine work. And then, oh, that gear's gone again. So now we go back to the machine that works. So, depending on what roles you add or subtract from this dynamic, can really tie into your level of conflict. So, here are a couple examples of solid 5-man band groups from modern media. And I tried to find 5-man bands that stuck each character in their role from beginning of story till end. And I couldn't. And I think that's a really encouraging thing for us writers, is that this archetype, this trope, already has seeded into it the ability to be incredibly adaptable. And it's set up in a way that you can be really, really adaptable with it. So let's look at some modern examples of the usage of the 5-man band to help get your creative juices flowing on how to develop one for your own story. First, let's look at Star Wars, the original trilogy. For this 5-man band, you have Luke as the leader. Now, especially in the first film, he is not really leadership quality, is he? He's a farm boy in the middle of this huge war that he has no reason to be in, except for the fact that he wants to be, and he got roped into saving the princess. He develops into a stronger leader, but still, even as a very naive, very young, inexperienced kid, he still leads the group. He's the one who he's the one who takes the information initially to Obi-Wan. He's the one who helps rope Han into it. He's the one who's like, no, we need to save the princess. Oh, we need to get this plans. Yeah, she has plans to overthrow the enemy. Let's do it. He's really the one that kind of spurs on all the action. And with his naivety, with his youngness, we have the Lancer is Han Solo. Now, Han is very suave. He's more mature. He has a lot more concreteness into who he is because he is older. He's been on adventures. He's figured out who he is. Where you have, he's more of like a swindler kind of character. Luke is very much more of the like hopeful optimist. Han is more pessimistic. Luke is more like, oh yeah, we can make everything better. there's always a way to make things better. So again, you see how the Lancer role it complements, but it's also contradictory to the leader. In the same vein, we have Leia is the heart. She's the one that keeps everyone together. And something that's really fun is we have here a heart who's snarky and she's just fun. And she's like, well, hey, thank you for opening the door. Let me grab a blaster and start helping out. So you don't have this damsel in distress like this archetype used to be, but you have this character who really helps bring the team together, who can also hold her own and is just fun. Leia's such a fun character. And then you have the strong guy of the team is going to be Chewbacca. You want Chewbacca on your side. You do not want to make him angry. You don't want to upset him. You want him to fight with you, not against you. For the smart guy of the team, we have the two droids of C-3PO and R2-D2, although R2 tends to fall more into this role because if anything happens tech-wise, he is more so the one to get the job done, where 3PO is more of the tactical side of things, negotiator tactical side of things. You have R2 is more of the problem solving, there's issues with the tech side of things. And in this 5-man band, Obi-Wan fulfills the role of the mentor. So you see how all these roles can kind of be fluid and how you can have a lot of very different interesting dynamics. Another 5-man band that I want to talk about is in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now this 5-man band is very interesting because it slowly grows over time and doesn't actually hit completion until almost the finale of the whole series. So you have Aang, a young child, free spirit of a kid, who is the leader. When it comes to the smart guy, this trope is subverted a little bit with Sokka. Typically, the smart guy, the trope that's turning into the cliche of a smart guy tends to be the small, wimpy glasses kid is the smart guy typically. But with this, we actually have a true fighter as the smart guy for once, which I think is a very interesting way to handle this trope. Sokka, yes, he's funny, he's a comic relief often, but he is the strategist. He is a leader in his own right, but he's not the leader of the group, which makes this dynamic kind of interesting between Aang and Sokka because he's always wanted to be the leader. He wants to be in charge. He wants to help other people. He wants to, bring people into fruition. He wants to be a fighter. He wants to be a warrior. And because of that, he's developed this very strategic mindset. He is the one that plans most of their fights. He is the one that plans most of their days. When they are on a tighter time schedule, he's the one who keeps track of that. Another subversion with this group is the tough guy. And that is Toph. Toph, the small, assumingly frail. She's not frail. But from the outside, she is small. She's 12. She's a she. She's blind. She's this blind, frail little girl. And yet she's the tough guy of the group. And I think this was a fantastic choice by the creators. Toph was actually originally supposed to be an earthbender of this 16-year-old, really big, muscly, beefy guy. And they decided to make her this small, blind girl. And it's so great because her personality is completely the opposite of how she appears physically. She is the strong guy of the group If you are in a fight, you want Toph next to you because she's gonna take all the blows, she's gonna deal the blows even harder. What's really fun about this five-man band is, as I mentioned before, it grows gradually. Toph doesn't come in until season 2. The Lancer doesn't join the team until the last half of season 3. And the Lancer is Zuko. So before he shows up, Katara kind of takes on the role of Lancer a little bit. She is the heart. She is the mom of the group. She's the one that pours into everyone. She cares for everybody. She makes sure that everyone is together. She makes sure that when there's fights, there is unity in the group. Even though Aang takes that over when she's a part of the fights because he's all about peacekeeping and a pacifist. So they kind of split the role of Heart just a little bit, while she is simultaneously splitting between the role of Heart and Lancer. But once Zuko comes into the team fully, you have a Heart that doesn't like one of the team members. And that creates a lot of interesting conflict. But switching back to Zuko, he is a perfect example of a foil to the protagonist, where Aang is very young and innocent. Zuko is older and was forced to grow up really quickly, where you have lightheartedness, you have this more heavy, I've been through life, I've dealt with stuff, I was forced to be a man, where you have a more, the air is very freeing and open. Fire is very temperamental and dangerous. But they complement each other so well once they start working together. This team is unbeatable. And that's another example of the five-man band being subverted in a bunch of different ways. Different characters take on different roles at different times of the story, whether you have a character that's missing or a character who hasn't been brought into the story yet. One final example of a variation of five-man band is going to be in the show of Voltron Legendary Defender. Now you start off with a group of teens and an adult. Clearly, the adult is going to be the leader. But what's really interesting about this five-man band is how much it changes over the course of the show. You have Shiro, who is the leader. Keith is the Lancer. They do have a history there. Shiro's very much he's very much a kind of a paragon of a character in how he is. He is the leader. He is the hero. He very much fits the hero. And then Keith is more of a lone wolf, uncertain of himself, more of a spitfire. So the rock solidness and the kind of flaming personality, again, complement each other. And then you have the strong guy, who is going to be Hunk. He's the biggest of the group. He remains firmly the strong guy. And he's kind of like the strong teddy bear kind of a character. And then you have Pidge, who fulfills the role of the smart guy. Tech genius, can hack anything. And then you have Lance. And he's the heart? Not really. He's kind of there. He's a part of the team of 5, but he's just kind of there. In reality, he is a Lancer to Keith. So the reason why it feels a little off in the first section of the show is because your heart isn't actually a part of your 5 core team members. Your heart is off to the side. She hasn't really joined yet. But Lance is kind of the heart, but he's also a Lancer to Keith. So when the leader goes missing for a period of time, the Lancer steps up. Keith steps up from a Lancer into the role of leader, and then Lance is able to step up from this kind of semi-heart Lance character into the role of the Lance. The irony is not lost on me that he has that name. But you have this transition of roles happening because your characters didn't quite fit the right roles. And then when one character is taken out, suddenly everything works. The five-man band starts clicking and formulating and working really well. So what happens when you put that character back into a well-oiled machine? You get breakage, you get more conflict. So you see how you can really use the five-man band trope and use it as a framework for your hero team or any team that you want to compile in your story. There's so many ways to use this trope and subvert it and make it interesting. And that's why I really wanted to share with you all is here is a very simple framework of 5 character roles that can fit multiple characters, or characters can flow in and out of those roles. It's very organic, it's very changing. But having these 5 roles makes for a solid, concrete team. So, question of the week is what is your favorite 5-man band? And what role in the 5-man band do you tend to gravitate more towards? Personally, I talked about it a lot because it is my favorite show, and that's Avatar: The Last Airbender. I also talked about Lancers in a previous video because I really like Lancers. Because the hero tends to slot into the role of the leader, your Lancer tends to be the person who is a hero but isn't quite as stoically the hero, and that makes them so much fun for me. I like drama in stories, and I like when characters have to go through a lot to figure out who they are. Those are my favorite kind of characters. They kind of tend to be more lone wolf type of characters, and those tend to fall into the role of Lancers. So for me, Avatar, I like Lancers. But what about you? What are some of your favorite 5-man bands? And what's the role that you notice some of your characters tend to slot into? I would love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments because I always want to expand my repertoire of stories that I know and that I understand. Well, scribes of the extraordinary, that is all I have for you today. I look forward to our next encounter together as we continue on this journey of going beyond entertainment, one step at a time.